Hello, dear co-creators. Have you missed me? I've missed you. I have had a stomach bug. Oh, it was not fun. And I haven't made any videos for a few days as a result. And I am feeling much better. And here is what is amazing that I have been thinking about since this all happened. And before. So I've been learning this concept from Kwasi Dohir, which I'm in a training with him about the path of least resistance and this idea that somehow God, source, the universal consciousness always takes us on the path of least resistance, right? So no matter what, whatever is happening is the easiest way for the highest good to come about for everyone involved, which I have spent most of my life arguing with God on this point. I have almost in every circumstance been like, I actually think I could have figured out an easier way for us to get to this good for everyone, or highest good for everyone point. But I have decided to go all in on this philosophy and just believe that whatever is happening is the highest good for everyone involved, or is the path of least resistance for the highest good for everyone involved. Okay. So this stomach bug I'm going to share with you, I think is that. So I was in a bit of a like obstacle challenge situation, if you will, with a person in my life and was going to have to be in the same space with them yesterday evening. Okay. And this stomach bug made it so I could not. All right. So I would, that I can tell because I'm like, as I got the stomach bug, I'm like, all right, how is this the path of least resistance? Right. And I realized there would have been nothing other than a contagious illness that would have stopped me from going to this thing and having this potentially challenging interaction where I potentially would have been in the position to, like, I would have been more tempted to not act according to my values or to experience a situation that was like a behavior that I'd rather not experience. And so I ended up with this contagious thing, which my kid had a few days before, right? So I didn't invent it. But I could see how, from a universal perspective, they would have been like, well, if you catch the stomach bug, then you won't be able to go. And then you'll maybe avoid this other potentially situation that would be way worse to you long term than a stomach bug. So again, even if I'm delusional, I am going to choose this perspective for the sake of my own sanity because it feels better. And I am thinking, like, I'm starting to look around me and be like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I probably couldn't have gotten to this point, or that other person probably couldn't have gotten to this point without going through this experience. So there's like more and more and more evidence for the bad things happening in my life making a lot of sense when I look at them from, I mean, obviously, I can't look at them from a universal consciousness perspective, but I am starting to see that even from my limited perspective, when I just like pull out, I'm like, oh, actually, that does make sense. And that makes the stomach bug a lot easier to deal with. I will tell you that because I'm like, oh, I'm sure this makes sense. And then sure enough, I was like, oh, yeah, that was a good, that was a good strategy. And I think potentially I'm going to be able to use this in all sorts of situations. So, path of least resistance, even when it looks bad. And you know, the other piece that I adore about this concept is that it helps me to not feel guilty about things that look crummy, you know? So I wouldn't have probably felt guilty about having a stomach bug, but let's say it's like, a scenario where I perceive that I could have made like a better decision that might have made a better outcome. I can now look at it and be like, oh, I made that decision because that was a part of how we were going to have path of least resistance through this. So like my whole housing situation, I can be like, oh, okay, I see how I like I don't see all the reasons why, but I can imagine that instead of just looking at that situation and being like, oh, I made a bunch of bad choices and now it went poorly, I can be like, okay, I'm sure that all of that was a part of this path of least resistance and is for everyone's higher good. And I can let that go and see how I can interact with the pieces of it that are happening now, according to my values. Instead of spending so much time rerunning old tapes and being like, how could I have done that better? And why did I not do it better? And maybe I fucked everything up and now I need to fix something, or now I need to make sure that something doesn't go worse. And I can just be like, okay, it's always happening. Path of least resistance is always happening. And I can trust that, and it's always gonna be for everyone's highest good. Like, there's no wrong turn that we can make. Every path leads back to everyone's highest good. That is, like, embedded in the same way that gravity is, and I can allow for that to be it's not just me. It's not just up to me. I can allow for it to be a partnership between this universal gravity and I. Okay. I love you all, and I'm gonna try and get some, I'm so hungry because I haven't really, you know how you don't wanna, like, eat too soon after a stomach bug? So I'm gonna go try to get a little bit more, um, food in my system and then, get some sleep. I love you, love you, love you.